She Plays podcast. My name is Chloe and I'll be your host. We also have
Tia.
And I'm Rio.
And we have a range of topics we want to discuss with you guys today. We're so excited to finally be doing this. I mean, I don't know about you girls, but I'm really excited that we finally get to sit down and record our first episode.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I mean, although we've wanted to do this for a while, I think we've picked such a good week. Obviously, we've got the end of the season in WSL coming up this weekend. We've got a bit of a title charge on our back, so couldn't have picked a better week, really.
Yeah, WSL title race and Champions League places up for grabs and a relegation announced. So much things to talk about.
And we also have the FA Cup the following weekend as well. So we have so much going on, so many topics to cover. So let's just jump right in. Ladies, obviously we have a title race, as Tia mentioned. What are your thoughts and feelings heading into the last weekend in regards to the WSL?
So there's a point in it. That's all that there is. And with the fixtures at the end, obviously Arsenal are away to West Ham. We've got Chelsea who are at home to Manchester United, but we've still got the Champions League battle going on. You know, like Man United will want to win that game to secure third, and Reading will have to beat City in the last game as well. So it seems that Chelsea possibly have the hardest game of the whole thing, but I think the pressure could get to Arsenal. They could crumble under the pressure, but it will be unbelievable.
And I think ultimately it's in Chelsea's hands. Obviously they've got the point ahead, but they do have the tougher fixture with Manchester United. Obviously they've got a lot to play for. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that game plans out and see if Emma Hayes changes her tactics going into that to make sure they secure the 3 points.
But with Chelsea, we have to point out that they also have City the following week in the FA Cup final. Do we think that could also be a distraction to them and might take their head away from the league?
I mean, it could be. You know, I think that Chelsea are a good enough team. They could focus on both. You know, Emma Hayes is an unbelievable manager, and I think she'll set them up in a way to still win the WSL, but also have her reserves off the FA Cup. I think obviously winning the league will be massive. The FA Cup is still a big competition, but it could definitely play into Arsenal's hands in the end that she's too busy focusing on the FA Cup.
I think Chelsea have that culture within and the mentality that they have within the squad that they'll take it a game at a time. Yeah. They know that Sunday's their priority. They won't be thinking about that FA Cup final until they've got that result done at Manchester United, and I'm sure Emma Hayes is trying to nail down any distractions that there is for the players, because everyone probably wants that off-season breaks, but I do think they'll be fully focused on that game on Sunday.
Then in terms of champions, who do you guys favor to win? I know I personally, as much as I want Arsenal because I'm an Arsenal girl, I think that Chelsea has this one in the bag.
I'm going to be contradicting. I'm going to say I think that if anyone's going to crumble under pressure, it will be Chelsea. Again, I'm like you, Chloe. I am an Arsenal girl, but I do think they could do it. As you said, with the FA Cup that Chelsea have, they could be in two minds. I know that their mentality at Chelsea is unbelievable, but I'm going to be contradicting. I'm going to go Arsenal.
Well, look, we've got two Arsenal fans. I'm a Man United fan, but I do think Chelsea will win this. I think, and again, like, as I've mentioned before, I think it's the culture that they've created within that squad. They've now got experience consistently doing that. So does Arsenal. But I just feel like they've got more experience within their squad right now, Chelsea. Even though it's a tough game against my team, Man United, I just do think they will pull through. But we'll just have to wait and see.
No, I 100% agree with Chelsea and the mentality and just everything they've achieved in the last few years. I think it's just that winner's mentality, like you said, Rio, and it's just, I feel like their head will be on it, where I feel like Arsenal has kind of waffled a little bit with some of the more serious games in recent time. So I think we'll see a Chelsea win for the WSL. But in other WSL news, obviously Birmingham City, which is one of, we can say, like the founding fathers of the league, has been relegated this season.
Well, I mean, their only win of the season was against Arsenal, which is arguably what could potentially lose Arsenal WSL. You know, if they win that game, they're 2 points clear, or they're on level points with Chelsea. It's a shame, but obviously that's how football is. It can be cruel sometimes, but it can also be unbelievable, as we've seen. But it'll be a shame, but that's how football goes.
Yeah, it's a shame for Birmingham. I think a lot of it's to do with what's gone on behind the scenes in terms of funding for that squad. If you look at Leicester City, who just got promoted, they've managed to stay up in their first season of WSL, but I think it comes down to funding. They've clearly invested in that squad. And if you look at Birmingham, they were struggling to have players on contracts like before the start of the season, which should never be happening in the top flight of women's football. But unfortunately, that's what happens. And I think it leads nicely onto the heroics of Coventry United.
100% agree. So Birmingham's going down, making way for Liverpool. But like you said, Coventry City, in the last 2 minutes of added time, they scored a free kick goal to beat Watford in order to stay up. Like, how phenomenal was that?
Yeah, that was incredible. And I think if you're a footballer, that's how you want to win a game. Last minute at the depth. And Molly Green, the player who got it, former Man United player, but she's been on an incredible personal journey in football, and it's great to see that she got that goal. And yeah, Coventry United were in liquidation, saved at the 11th hour. 30 players and staff had contracts about to be removed midway through the season, and the fact that they've recovered after a 10-point reduction, which is massive within the championship. That league is so competitive, and the fact that they've managed to do that, and what a way to win it. Tia, you wouldn't mind scoring a free kick in the last minute, would you?
I'd absolutely love to do that. I'd score any sort of goal in the last minute. It could be rapid, it could be a screamer, it could be a header, whatever it is. To know that you've scored the winning goal that will send your team up after everything that's happened is unbelievable, honestly.
I think it really just comes down and shows like how far women's football is coming away, because obviously it's shameful that teams are still facing like liquidation and so many financial issues behind the scenes. Like even mid-season, you would never see a men's team debate on dropping out halfway through a season. To have them look back and say, like, you know what, we did it, like that's a phenomenal thing. And I think it really speaks volumes to where women's football is going in the future.
Absolutely.
Kind of then leads into what else we want to touch on, which is the Newcastle women's, the first game at St. James's Park, setting the record attendance this year in a 4th tier match. They had 22,134 people come out.
Honestly, it's an incredible stat. I think we spoke before, Chloe, it had like more capacity than the Watford Burnley game in the Premier League not too long ago, which that's a relegation battle. I know obviously Watford is a small ground, but for a 4th tier club to go and produce numbers like that is unbelievable. We've seen some phenomenal numbers this season in terms of capacity. You know, we've seen Barcelona in the Champions League and how unbelievable the support was for them, and it's such a good thing for football and for women's football going into the future that the capacity is definitely building.
Yeah, one of my friends plays for Newcastle, and I spoke to her a few days before the
amazing
game and after the game, and she was just saying how much funding that they've put into it. The Newcastle obviously got new owners, but the fact that a tier 4 club has shown that commitment is absolutely amazing. I think it's credit to them how they've marketed it as well, because I think some of the WSL clubs, when they do host at the men's stadiums, they sometimes struggle in terms of how they market it, or they don't sell as many tickets as they would have expected. But the fact that a tier 4 club, and obviously Newcastle's a great name, but to have that within the women's football pyramid and attracting so many fans, it just shows you that people want to watch it. And no matter what some people's opinions of women's football, we know it's heading in an upwards direction.
Absolutely.
Rio, I 100% agree with you there. And you know what? I think it shows that not all owners are willing to market their women's team the same. Obviously, we've seen WSL teams playing at the men's stadiums, like you said, but I think it all does come down to marketing. A lot of these teams just assume that fans will just want to come because of the crest that they're wearing on their jersey, but a lot of it is about that fan atmosphere. And if you're not willing to go and put yourself into that market, I don't know how they expect the women's game to expand. Obviously, playing in the men's stadiums is huge for the women's game, the development of the game. And if you want to hear more about that, you can check out the article that will be posted on our blog. But it's phenomenal that a tier 4 team has managed to put this number up on the board and hold the record attendance this year. Like, I know they were saying that they've had to actually delay the kickoff 15 minutes to allow fans in because they were queuing up around outside. And then the fact that they've set the aim to be in Champions League for the 2027-28 season, it's a good goal. And hopefully this encourages other owners to take the stance and to invest the money into the women's side, because obviously it's an up and coming market. Hopefully this starts off something new for the women's game and help the development, because that's the biggest thing we're missing right now is just people investing and putting into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, we know the big takeover that happened at Newcastle. Obviously, I think we're going to be seeing a big drastic change at Newcastle United all over the place. And I just think it is very good mentality, you know, to have that target when you're in the 4th tier that you're going to be in the Champions League in 5-6 years' time. It's incredible to see the mentality being there. Although, as we've all said, you know, women's football, that people, you know, not many people would watch it, but now the amount it's rising is just incredible. And I think it's such a big thing as well for teams to get in the Champions League. even if it's the men's, you know, women's Champions League is obviously just as big of a competition. It's incredible.
And like, if we want to touch on that Champions League, I think we have to mention the Camp Nou and the record-breaking figures, 91,000, sold out twice, may I say. When I watched it, it was just someone, because obviously being involved in football since such a young age and finally seeing that a sellout crowd at one of the most iconic stadiums, and the quality was unbelievable.
Rio, I'm sure you can agree, growing up as a female footballer, it's hard, because like, I know for me personally, like, I never thought, wow, I want to play professionally, because there was never a market for it. There was anyone who was playing professionally at the time wasn't making much money. So now it's amazing that young girls coming up through the system actually have something to look forward to and say, hey, like, we actually will be supporting, we can make a living off this and not have to work multiple jobs just to play what we love.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like, obviously now you could switch on the TV and on Sky, like a Super Sunday. I watched it every single, don't know about both of you, Tia, probably.
Yeah.
Every Sunday that was on. That was my weekend. And the fact that I could now watch female role models and see that is a career path that I could go into. And I coach as well now, and I could see the impact it has on these young girls. Ella Toone come down to one of my sessions, Man United and England International, and just how responsive she was and the questions that the girls were asking, they just left so inspired. And I think that's what's different about women's football, the access and how much the players are willing to help out their next generation. Because I think we all understand, as women within the football industry, that there is few of us, you know, and I think we all need to support each other. And I just think it's incredible that the likes of her are just inspiring so many people, including me. And it's amazing to see the transition it's been on, especially within the UK.
I think we can all agree that with everything happening, obviously the money invested in Newcastle, the coverage on the TV, everything now, hopefully this encourages people to start actually investing more into the women's game. And hopefully this season and everything that's been accomplished throughout all of Europe and all of the world in women's football can be a massive step forward in terms of the women's game. But do you want to transition over to the Euros quickly with you ladies? Obviously, Euros, massive event, the big event of the year this year for football, men's and women's. Home Euros, what are your thoughts?
It'll be interesting. Obviously, I know we've seen glimpses of England in the Arnold Clark Cup. We've seen them in the World Cup qualifiers, and, you know, they can score goals. I don't think anybody's going to doubt that. You know, we've got likes of Beth Mead, and we've got Ellen White as well, right on form, with Ella Toone as well. I think I think it'll be a goal scoring Euros. I think England could be up there with scoring a few goals, but again, I don't think it'll be as easy for that for England. You know, there's a few teams in Europe, women's teams, that are just unbelievable. We've seen Netherlands, they've won it before. I think they're a very strong team. It'd be very, very interesting to see though. Rio, what's your thoughts?
Oh, I'm so excited. Like, to have a home Euros, especially where this England squad is. I think we've got a really good mix of young players and experienced players who've been there and done it. And I've already mentioned Ella Toone and her teammate Alessia Russo. I really hope they make the squad, because I think they add something different. They add something that's the creativity, and I really do think, I hope it's finally going to come home. I don't want to jinx it.
Play the 3 lines and repeat.
Yeah, like, I honestly do think they've got a really good shout. And obviously Serena, she led the Netherlands onto the Euros win, so she obviously knows how to handle this competition. But obviously Spain's like the whole Barcelona squad, so that's going to be tough. And I think they didn't perform as what I thought they were going to perform like during the Arnold Clark Cup. Chloe, I know you were at the majority of the games. What did you think of Spain and even Germany, some of the big names?
Yeah, I know. Well, obviously Germany, I think they had 20 plus players drop out of the squad at some point.
Yeah.
Riddle injury. So essentially Germany went into that competition with their third squad.
Yeah.
Obviously they didn't have the competition they had hoped for, but they were still if that was their third team and they were competing with the way they're competing, they're obviously going to be a force to be reckoned with. they're 8-time champs of the European competition. So they're definitely a team to look out for. But Spain, the talent, the technical ability within the team was phenomenal. And like you said, it's a lot of the Barcelona and Real Madrid players. Obviously, they're great players. I think there may be some coaching and behind the scenes issues. That was sort of the word going around while I was there. But I think they'll definitely be another one to look out for. Realistically, out of the top 10 FIFA rankings, 6 of them are all European countries, but with Sweden, France, Germany, Netherlands, Spain, England. And then Norway's number 11. Norway's even won the European competition. So I think it's going to be a lot of talent. It's going to be a lot of great teams and hopefully a lot of great football. And it's great to see that the games have already sold out. Obviously, the final, they're trying to now make seats become available through what they originally had for like club seating and all of that. So it's great. But I guess my question to you guys is, how do you feel about, yes, they've sold out some of the stadiums, but they've also chosen some small stadiums rather than larger ones. So they've sold it out, but it's because it's like a 5,000-6,000 person capacity.
I mean, I don't think it's a bad thing, you know. I think they've got the right idea of having Wembley, you know, for the final, etc. And I think it's not a bad thing. It is a small capacity, just in my opinion. Obviously, you have got group stages for teams and the crowds probably won't be a good number. Obviously, we've been shocked as well, though, as we've said, with the capacities that we have seen over the season. So it could come back and bite them a little bit. But I don't think it's a bad thing. You know, having a full stadium is probably better than having half of the stadium filled or even just a quarter filled in terms of the feel of the game and make it feel like a big competition. I personally think that, you know, it's not a bad thing. You've got the main one at Wembley, but Rio, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with some aspects of it. I think I would have loved to have semi-finals and the final at Wembley.
I agree.
I think, well, Old Trafford for the opening game is, well, for me, I'm going to be biased, but that's going to be incredible. But I do think they could have capitalised on it a bit more. Obviously, in the UK, we've got all the Premier League stadiums, high capacity stadiums, and I do think they obviously want to have a sellout, but obviously they're missing tickets and missing more faces that haven't watched football before. Like, I think we were all at the North London derby, but I was sitting next to this man with his family and he was saying how it's his first time watching women's football. And I think it's going to be a lot of that in the Euros.
100%.
And I think they really need to capitalise on that. And I know there's going to be a roadshow and everything like this. So it should be really good. But yeah, I do think that's obviously one of the negative points, that they haven't used bigger stadiums for all the games, not just England, because obviously England's got all the spotlight on them. But a lot of the other nations might be only coming professional recently or having players that don't really play professional. So obviously that's going to show a major difference, but they need exposure for other big clubs to pick them up.
Like you said, Rio, I think they did miss the mark a little bit in terms of creating an opportunity to play in more stadiums. There are smaller men's stadiums that could have been used better that still have a 20,000 odd capacity.
Yeah, that is true.
They would never stick a men's Euros in a 5,000 to 10,000 capacity stadium. It's still a competition. It still deserves the same respect, regardless if it's men's or women's.
Absolutely.
And I think capitalizing on the London market as well, they kind of missed the mark a little bit, as I believe there's only one qualifying game in London other than the finals.
Yeah, I'm gutted about that. Obviously,
we've got loads of grounds in London. It's creating their high capacity ones as well. You've got the London Stadium, Emirates Stadium, the new Tottenham Hotspur Stadium alone is going to be a massive tourist attraction in itself. Like, it's crazy.
I think they could have done it a little bit better in terms of obviously creating more opportunity, but hopefully for the sake of the development of women's football, all goes well. It's good that we've been getting sellouts. And if you want to read a little bit more about the Euros, like, we have a piece up on our blog right now, so go check that out.
You do.
But ladies, I think we're kind of running out of time here. So anyone have any last words before we wrap up?
Last thing we can mention, just drawing it back to the WSL, is that the Arsenal manager has just signed a new contract actually along with Mikel Arteta of the men's first team for another 3 years. So interesting time to announce that, with one more game for the WSL. So that would be very, very interesting. And obviously we've got the Chelsea player, Yi Son Young, I think I've pronounced that. I might probably pronounce that completely wrong. Obviously, she's now leaving Chelsea. She's been there for about 8 years and she's won 11 major trophies, which is just incredible. So will definitely be a sad letting go in the WSL with her.
Yeah, big miss. I've watched her a few times live. She's absolutely incredible, and I'm sure Chelsea will need to find a replacement for her. And I think with the Arsenal manager signing, I think it shows them clear sign for what they want in the future. It's a commitment. I think Steph Catley's also signed a new contract as well. So clearly they're looking forward to the future.
Like we said, if Chelsea wins, you've heard it from me first for the league. Tia calls Arsenal. Yeah. So we'll see who wins the battle, if Tia owes Rio and I, or we owe her. We'll see how it all plays out. But
I'm the one on my own, so let's hope I come out the victory there.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning into the first episodes of the She Plays podcast. Make sure you check out our website, check out all the blogs. We're constantly updating with new topics on women's football, and we hope you have a great day. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.